Hello everybody and welcome to Dad's Free Time Game Reviews, where I review the games that I play when no one needs me. Today's game is The Adventures of Tintin, the game. Let me see if I can get this on the screen here. I had seen the movie, alright? I'm aware that Tintin has been around since like the 60s or the 70s. He's in the comic strip. He's very popular. He's a Belgium character, like from Brussels, Belgium, and he's like a ginger. You know, he's a good guy. All right, he's a reporter, and the movie was good. There's really not much else to say. I mean, the movie wasn't. It was like done by Peter Jackson and Spielberg. Like, what's not to like? You know what I mean? I'm actually impressed that they went out of their way to do this movie. There was also a scene in the movie that was like this continuous CGI shot thing that was absolutely bonkers. Like, it was the best CGI scene I've ever seen in my life, and I'm talking about as far as action is concerned. I mean, they strung it all together like it was a movie, and there was a lot to it. So I got super hyped for the movie, and then I went out and checked out the game, and I saw that the game was not bad. It was actually pretty competent. So I went ahead and got the game, and this right here is the review that I have done after I've played the game. So enjoy. The Adventures of Tintin is about a reporter that's 17 years old named Tintin. He works for the little 20th newspaper, and he just basically goes around the world, I guess, using the paper's money to solve crimes. Something like that. Anyway, he's annoyingly perfect. Annoyingly perfect. He in the movie and in the game, he never says anything that isn't 100% correct and direct to the point. He has this dog named Snowy that he's annoyingly perfect. You know, him and Snowy have this bond. Snowy's so smart, it's said that sometimes people hear him speaking English. Okay, it's surely we can all relate to these people. I mean, I'm a black dude with half a terrier myself. I'm surely I can relate to this redheaded crime-solving reporter with sandbags for fists and his little dog Snowy that never does anything wrong. Just all over the place. This is one of the I'm not even getting into the story yet. This is one of the things that irritates me about Tintin right off the bat, and the reason why I didn't like any of his cartoons or comics or anything like that is just basically because there's nothing wrong with him. It's you're supposed to be able to identify with this kid, but he is so unabashedly perfect that it was very irritating. It's still irritating. You know, circumstances around him need to be pretty dire for him to overcome, but you always know he's going to overcome it because he doesn't know how to lose, and there's really nothing beyond that. There's no low point in Tintin's life. He is the model citizen in everything that you want a model citizen to be. Okay? Let's get that out there. Let's make it straight. Alright, the story. In the story, Tintin goes to a little flea market. You know, a little bunch of, you know, ratty sales things on the street, you know, and he finds this really cool looking ship, and he wants to buy the ship because Snowy, his dog, thinks the ship is awesome. All right, so pays for the ship, and then another person comes up and he's like, I really need this ship, you son of a bitch. And then Tintin's like, excuse me, sir, language, you need to calm down. And he's like, I'll pay you twice the money for that ship. He's like, no, I think the ship is very interesting and Snowy likes it, so it's mine. So then he takes the ship, he takes 3 steps in the opposite direction, and then a dude sitting down goes, oh, I see you got the unicorn. That's the name of the ship. And he says, yeah, and then the guy goes, well, I have a book that relates to the unicorn. He's like 10 steps away from the other merchant. Like they couldn't be there within looking distance. That dude can see the unicorn. He doesn't even care about it until somebody buys it. Like, what's going on here? All right, he buys the Tintin buys the book as well, and then he goes off into a corner and looks at the unicorn, solves a puzzle, and bam, a little scroll pops out. And he's like, oh my goodness, this scroll's pretty cool. He pulls it out, sticks it in his pocket or whatever. And then that guy from earlier that wanted the unicorn before, he's like, he went and got two servicemen, like a taxi driver and a butler or some junk, and they just kind of nudge Tintin and take the unicorn, and then they run, and Tintin's got to bust ass to find this ship that was supposed to be his. Okay, you know, as time goes through, it leads him onto a ship, which runs him into Captain Haddock, who happens to be the ancestor of another Captain Haddock. who disgraced his family and himself in Belgium, I guess, by letting his ship burn without being on it. You know, the old adage that the captain is supposed to go down with his ship. Well, Captain Haddock did not go down with his ship. So now he's made a line of Haddocks that are disgraced and said to be unlucky. And Tintin, with Captain Haddock, is gonna find all these scrolls, because he found out that there's 3 scrolls, which means 3 separate unicorns. And he's gonna get up with Captain Haddock, find the 3 separate unicorn scrolls in order to find some sort of treasure. And that's in a nutshell, that's kind of how the story goes. I'm not going to tell you whether or not they get the treasure, but, that's, yeah, whatever. Okay, when it comes to game mechanics, the question is, what can't this obnoxious Tintin boy do? I mean, let's be real here. Tintin is great at everything. He's like Jesus, right? Tintin can fly a plane. Tintin can drive motorcycles. Tintin can shoot people down, using a slingshot. Tintin has a perfect dog that some people say they hear speaks English. You know what I mean? Tintin's dog Snowy can burrow underground and pull up treasures that he smells. He can climb up walls like he's a spider. Tintin can bounce off walls like Ninja Gaiden, like he's got little things on his hands that allow him to attach to walls. Tintin can climb up ladders super quick. Tintin can throw things like to destroy mechanisms. Tintin can throw bananas to make people slip. Tintin he can do everything. Tintin has a double jump. Tintin has a stealth kill. Tintin can knock people out by punching them. Tintin is awesome. He's the Lord Savior Jesus Christ. He is the Belgian version of Superman. He doesn't have any powers though, but he just knows how to do everything. It's ridiculous how OP Tintin is for being a 17-year-old kid. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. I can't believe it. I'm amazed. It's a great game. The amount of game mechanics that you have are right in front of you. You can play 2-player mode. That's great. You know, switching to the plane to riding on a motorcycle adds a nice amount of depth to the game. You know, the many times you change costumes and everything, the different layers there were to a 2D game that, you know, ended up being sort of 2.5D because you jump between two planes every now and then, you know, using a parrot to float over to another thing. I mean, underwater stuff with the little underwater scooter thing, like everything in this game is for some reason done right, and there's never an understanding, like a misunderstanding as to what you're supposed to do in these sections. You know what I mean? I mean, I was confused a few times, like, but that confusion never happened for that long. And on top of that, there were a ton of you know, checkpoints. So if you did get confused for a second, you're never gonna come back in too far away. I mean, I'm really impressed with how they did the mechanics on these games, and then on top of that, they had a second game that, you know, I didn't play through on the channel because it didn't have a real story attached. You know, some junk about Captain Haddock getting bonked over the head and going into a dream world, and then you're just playing stages in the dream world. Essentially, it's like DLC that was just included on the DVD, right? And in this game, you play as 5 or 6 playable characters, and all of them have a special move that helps you solve puzzles. You know, I mean, it's great. It's really hard for me to explain to you how they gave you so many options, but somehow you didn't forget. Like, usually if you get in a game and you play it and they give you a ton of options, there'll be a point in the game where they ask you to use some obscure thing, and you forgot that you could even do that. Like, you've been making it through the game not doing this one thing, but using everything else instead. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you push a button. Oh, don't forget, if you use the silent mode, then it exploits your bad guy's, you know, his pants fall down or something. And you don't beat the guy without knowing that, but you never use silent mode because who needs a silent mode? You know, those things don't happen in this game. I don't understand why I like it so much, other than the fact that I was just able to play through it with like a full intuition of how to do almost everything in the game without wondering why they just forced in some stupid game mechanic. It's very rare that happens, okay? The music is good and atmospheric, but it really isn't worth noting. I mean, there's no real tunes that I was bobbing my head to. It's not like they went out of their way to find a musician that was ready to rock this soundtrack apart. You know, I don't even think they even sell a soundtrack. So, yeah, it was good enough. It wasn't so bad that I paid attention to it. We'll say that much. Alright, now the bosses are a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, in the story mode, the bosses kind of suck. Alright, the first boss is, you know, it's 2 guys with umbrellas, okay? Second boss is Captain Haddock's first mate, Alan. Third boss is Captain Haddock's first mate, Alan. Fourth boss is Captain. Well, you get the idea. But there are a few modes where Captain Haddock's ancestor has to do a sword fight, and he has to play or fight the Red Baron guy, whatever his name was. That mode was actually kind of interesting because it got blended in with the story, and I count that as a boss fight, and that one was good. But after that, the game was just like what? The fights with First Mate Alan all are the exact same fight with one minor change. Like now, first one he had a water gun, and the second one he had a water gun and dynamite or some junk like that. It's stupid, dumb. But in the second game, you have to take out the Red Baron or Red Pirate or whatever his name is, and that guy those boss fights are actually fun. I mean, he's huge, and then all of a sudden he's in a ship, and you know what I'm saying? Like those, yeah, they were good. So, you would downplay the rating of the story mode by looking at the boss fights from there, but then when you play the second game, the boss fights are actually pretty cool, even though there's no story attached, which is just totally weird. So, yeah, that's the way it is. The bosses sucked in the story, but are great in the second game. Tintin sucks, okay? His character stinks. I hate Tintin, alright? If I knew Tintin, I would hate his guts, and if he came over to me asking me any questions about homework or anything like that, I'd be like, get out of my face, Tintin. I hate how perfect you are. You know what I'm saying? People like Tintin don't need to hang around me, alright? How in the heck are you gonna be 5'2", still be knocking people out? You know what I'm saying? Somehow get a perfect dog. And somehow get a perfect job. Somehow get a job that finances all your trips. Somehow get a job that finances all your trips while you're finding treasure and making a bunch of friends. You move around the world so much that Interpol agents that travel the world know who you are. That's a little too much. That's a little too much. So, fair enough. So there you have it. The Adventures of Tintin, the game, is a game that, it doesn't demand that you play it, okay? But if you should happen to have $5 hanging around, somebody selling the game for $5, go ahead and pick it up. It's not a disappointing game whatsoever. It's completely enjoyable. It has extra things in there to make you happy about purchasing the game. And it's not a $60 game. If they sold this game once it was released for $60, I would definitely say it's a straight up ripoff, and you should slap the shit out of Ubisoft for that junk. But if the game was, maybe 15 to 20 bucks, on release, well played, and I know that they released the game for a whole bunch of different platforms, but, the PS3 version is fun, okay, and I enjoyed it so much that I will remember that it was fun forever, It's a game that gave me no hard times whatsoever, and, there's not even, I couldn't even complain about it, and I complain about everything, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, thank you for joining the Dad's Free Time Game Reviews. If you should like the artwork for this game, then that can be found at CraftyAcuity.org. If you should want to buy any of the artwork at CraftyAcuity.org, then, hit me up and I'll see that I can get a nice, clean looking print right in your hands, okay? The prints always look awesome. I'm always surprised. I wish I could show you more prints, but one of these days I'm gonna start decorating my wife's office or find my own place to do stuff. But we'll definitely show off these prints, and they're decent. They're pretty good. I like them. Anyway, you guys have a nice nice time until I see you on these reviews again. And please be safe. Dad's Free Time Game Reviews. Peace.